Okay, we are going to start, and welcome to webinar. And this webinar is designed for students in grade 6 to 8 who are interested in taking the AMC 8 exam in the fall, and also for parents on how to effectively helping your children to prepare for the exam. So first, let's look at what is MC8. MC8 is a competition that's designed by the American Mathematical Association and with the goal to promoting problem solving. So for this year, the exam is going to be scheduled on November 14th, 2017. And the exam is not a difficult one because it's just testing many of the basic skills of middle school mathematics. But on top of that, there's some many problem-solving strategies that's involved. So the test format is it's 25 questions. You get 40 minutes to do it. All the questions are multiple choice, and there's no penalty for guessing. So you get a 20% chance to get answer correct, and you can guess as many as you want. Okay. Now, from the larger scope, the AMC is an exam. It's a serious competition by the American Mathematical Association, and at the top is the AMC 8. Typically, about 20,000 students take it each year. And this is for students under grade 8 or younger. The next level is AMC 10. AMC 8 testing the middle school mathematics all the way to geometry. AMC 10 testing the first 2 years of high school mathematics all the way to algebra 2. And AMC 12 is for all the high school mathematics except calculus. So you're testing all the way to 12th grade. And both of those exams, roughly about 160,000 students take it. It offered twice a year, and usually the first week of February and the last week of February. Now, on these two, then this is a series of levels that students can achieve, so that if they reach top 2% on AMC 10, top 5% on AMC 12, then they are invited to take AME, and about 6,000 students will make it. And then from AME, they are invited to take the next level, is called USA Junior Math Olympia or USA Math Olympia. And 250 people each will take it. And from USMO, then the top 6 students will be representing the United States to compete internationally. Now we'll come back, focus on the AMC 8 exam. The AMC 8, there's a certain level of recognition. At the first top level is what we call the certificates of distinguished. And this is awarded to the top 2% of the students. To reach this award, your students need to get 22 to 25. And so that's top 2%. The next level is the top 5%. And the top 5% is for a score between 18 to 21. Usually for students who scores in the top 5% or above, they take the high school. When they go to high school, they will pursue math clubs, other math competitions, and other related extracurricular activities that utilize their math skill. AMC also try to encourage more younger students to study problem solving. So they gave a third award, and this award is only for 6th graders or younger. So if you're a 6th grader or younger, and you score in the top 15%, that's usually in 15 correct answers. Then you will get a certificate of merit. So these are the levels that the AMC gave out nationally. Now, if the test is done at a specific school, and then there's also school level awards. Each school will have a winners. Okay, you got a medal, and then each school will be recognized for your first, second, and third place. And so many schools who offer the AMC 8 will also give those awards at school assemblies and others. So it's a great honor to be one of the top mathematicians in your school. So this is the more of a school level. Now, when you prepare, what does that testing? So we take a look at the test that 2016, and we did a little analysis of what kind of content that's covered. About 16% of content are number sense. Those are the relatively easy concept, and basically focus on testing a student's understanding of fundamental mathematical properties, the ability to break out numbers, regroup them, find clever ways to compute things, and essentially specific tricks that will make school math easier. I will give some examples a little bit later. The second one, the largest category, is in the area of number theory. Okay, that's counts about a third of them, and so last year there were about eight problems related to that. That dealing with factors, least common multiples, and square numbers, and all those related to number seed remainders and things like that. And the third one is counting and probability. So those two combined is about 20%. And counting probability problems are usually moderate, difficult ones. But if you want to score in the top 5%, then I think you need to master those topics. And algebra is 16%, and then geometry is about 16%. So this is kind of the roughly the content that you can see typically in the US. Number sense, the numbers is covered in the 6th grade and some of the 7th grade content, and algebra is covered in the 6th and 8th grade content, and geometry a little bit in 8th grade. And but on the AMC 8, the geometry is not that difficult. In most of the geometry problems can be very, very easily handled, but it usually represents some of the difficult problems. You can see that on the 2016, the geometry, the last 4 problems, 3 of them are geometry problems, and so it does reflect a challenge for students who go for top 2% rankings. All right, so the next thing what I'm gonna do kind of quickly talk about is summarize to what I call a 10 strategy to achieve AMC success. I think the first strategy is that if you are interested in and set up your own goal and with one of those award level as your target, and then I think you need to do a number of things to get yourself mentally ready, because you have about 7 weeks to prepare. And during that 7 weeks, if you do a number of things I suggested, it will hopefully to improve your scores. And so that the more important is you learn the math in many different ways. And you want to do is using this as an opportunity to demonstrate that what you learned and to reflect what you learned. You don't want to do is have a test scores underrepresent what you know. And you want to overachieve, not underachieve. So your first thing is that prepare your test kits. Prepare your test kit. Well, what are the test kits you need? And typically, all these tests needs a number 2 pencil. So get 3 of them ready in your kit. And it requires scratch papers, writing papers, rulers, protractors, and erasers. So put this place in some place handy. Every time you practice a test, you want to have these kits ready. You want to have your graph paper handy. You want to learn how to use the protractors and for certain geometry problems. learn how to draw accurate geometry diagrams, and you need to have some scratch papers ready so that you can organize your work. I'll show you how to do that in a minute. Right? So that's the first thing, is that get the kids ready, and before you take the test, make sure you have all those materials so that when you go there, you have a set of the tools that at your disposal. Strategy number 2, you learn the math along the way, but in the last couple of months to prepare for the test to get the best results of the test, it's always a very effective strategy is take out some old practice examples, 2 of them, 3 of them, 5 of them, 10 of them, depends on how much time do you have and how much do you want to pursue. But practice on old tests is always very useful. But it's not only just work on it, it's how you work on it will help you to make your practice more efficient and effective. It's not about the quantities, it's really about the quality of each practice. And we find out that in the past, working with many of the advanced students who scored very, very high, is that they take each of these practice tests just like a simulated test environment. Which means that you have your test kit, you get the materials ready, you use the exact 40 minutes. If you have any time left over, you go back, double check your answers to make sure you didn't make any careless mistakes, and so on. And you also learn how to guess, because there's no penalty for guess, and so you don't leave anything unanswered. And so that's the second thing, is that setup. Now this is a place that where parents can help, is that the parents can serve as the role of the proctor. So have your child sit in a quiet room, just like a test, no TVs, no other distractions from siblings, and let them focus on it. All the paper kit is ready, just like an actual test environment. And put a clock, or give them a watch to watch the time. And then at the end of 37 minutes mark, give them a 3-minute warning. Then at the 1-minute mark, give them a 1-minute warning. And those are usually the time of cue for double check your answers, get ready to wrap up, and all those. So parents can work with that to monitor and providing a proctor environment for students who haven't had a lot of experience to take this kind of national exams. And for high school students, and they have a little bit more experience, then it's not necessary. But I think for middle school students, especially for students who is the whole first time taking this exam, do some proctoring by a parent involved will be a tremendous help. Number 3, you want to do is organize your scratch papers so that you can very easy to check your work. Well, what does that mean by organize the scratch papers? So I did some examples, and so you take a scratch paper, you typically prepare 4 or 5 sheets of your paper, and you divide your paper into a block of 6 blocks, like what I did here. If you write very big letters, you can divide them into 3 blocks. And then you label them on each of the problem that you work on. And as you work on each problems, and you can just write down your solutions, but in your solution that's very, very easily organized, so that when you come back, you can scan into your work to determine if you got the right answer or not. And additionally, a couple of things you want to pay attention. Number 1, every time you finish the work, there are a lot of numbers around it. Always box your answer. So when you come back, you can quickly check which number it is. And not only sometimes you box your answer, you can also write down this is A or this is C or whatever. So the idea is quickly identify where is the answer to the problem, and so that you can check whether it's reasonable or not. Second, when you diagram, sketch them clearly. Some diagrams you can just use hand sketch. Some diagrams you just may need to use your graph papers and rulers. And then you just pull out your graph paper and just draw them separately. Number 3, now sometimes like this is a problem that let's say you are always weak on fractions, and this is fraction over fractions. So you got the answer, and the answer seems reasonable, but you're not so sure, and just put a circle there. Right? And the circle there, so that when you have time, you want to check the answer, you always come back to the circled ones first. So if you're not sure, just circle it. And number 4 is that a lot of time you do work, you're going to make mistakes, right? Like here, I initially I read the problem wrong, so I draw down something, and then I come up with 80, and I find out that 80 is not the one of the answers. So I read the problem one of the times. But sometimes I see students wasting time, just use eraser, try to erase all this. But there's no need, okay? So just scratch it, and then put the answers in the second part, and then, okay? And then just move on. There's more. Sometimes it's okay to guess, right? Like this number 3, I look at the problems and I know the answer. So I just guess the answer, okay? So just mental math it, but don't skip one. Just put the answer a block there, so immediately you know that this one is your mental math. So when you want to double check, you have the time, you may want to check your mental math work, because you know the problem is easy and you have a couple of minutes left. You want to make sure the easy ones that you do, you do not overlook and you get the correct answer. And next one is that don't always finish all the steps. This is a problem that asks me to prime factorization, right? But I don't need to prime factorization all the way, because all the question asking for is how many prime factor this has. So once I got 4, I know it's 2. So I don't need to factor everything, go to details. I save a few seconds here and there, end up I save about 4 or 5 minutes, and then I can use that time to double check my answer. So I can look at this answer. Oh, I factor this one to 3, 3, 4, 7, 8. Then I know the 3 prime factor is 2, 3, 7. So I got 12. And same thing here. And the equation asking for me to solve an algebra equation. I get the equation set up. I did some manipulation. But once I get to this one, I can mental math. Right? Once you do the mental math, you don't need to solve that for x equal to 10. Just circle the 10 and move on. Now, sometime, like in this problem, number 12, when I finish this one, again, this is fraction of expression, and there's some ambiguities in the problems in the reading, and makes answer A or B looks like evenly possible. And I know C and D as E is not answered. So I circle it. I just say A or B. So again, when I come back to check, I want to just verify, make sure that what I picked is correct. Because right now I picked the B. That's the answer I picked. But I also want to consider A if I have time. Right? So you want to do is that as you walk through, and you can see that my notes and the scratch work is very, very organized. It's very easy for me to come back to look at what my solution is. And a lot of the time, I do not need to redo the problems. I can see my solution. I can see my reasoning. If my reasoning is correct and my computation is correct, then I don't need to. I have a pretty good confidence, so I don't need to spend a lot of time to solve this one. So when you come back to the checking, is you always leave the last 3 to 5 minutes to check your answer, and don't don't use the last few minutes and just go solve it. And also is that when you check, first focus on the ones that you circled, okay? And like this is the one you circled. So first, just focus on that to make sure that you work on this one. All right. Now, so here again, you work on the ones that you circled, okay? Now, once you finish the test, the next thing one is that you want to do keep a records, and you set up a spreadsheet. So for example, here's my spreadsheet. I have 25 problems on the top, and here's all the tests that I practiced: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I did 7 of those. And the first one I didn't do very well. I got 14, and the next one I did better. Right. So each time I got it correct, I put a 1 there. If I got 0 incorrect, I put a 0 there. If I skip the answer, I just leave a blank. Right? So you want to mark the questions that you got correct. You're going to mark the questions that you skipped, and you're going to mark the questions that you got wrong. So you kind of give yourself a little bit of records of how much you progress, and then you review. Okay? Don't just do the test. Do the test is not important. It's the review the test to learn new strategy and new technique is what you want to learn and to progress. So how do you review? So you want to do is read all answers, the solutions. For the first 10 problems on the AMC 10 exam, it's almost all of them is about tricks that you can do through Google Maps, which means that these problems can be done in two different ways. If you use the school math way, and you will do much slow, but if you learn the trick to do that, you can do much faster. So for example, in this problem, right, and 4 students take an exam, 3 of the score is 70, 80, 90. If the average is 70, you want to do the remaining score. Or the school math will say, well, for every 70, so I need 70 times 4 to get a total of 280. And then I need to take the 280, subtract 70, subtract 80, and then subtract 90, and in order to get my final answer. And that I think I got 40. Right. Now you get the right answer, and this is the correct answer. Yeah. But you may got, if you do this way, you may got answer right, but you probably wasted about 30 seconds, if not more. A problem-solving way is look at the fundamental average. Well, if it's average, and I want the average is 70, well, this 70 is already on the average. This number is 10 more, and this number is 20 more. So that means I already have 30 more than average. Then my fourth number can be 30 less. So all I did is a 70 minus 30 to get 40. So an experienced problem solver can do this problem pretty much in mental math in less than 10, 15 seconds after they finish reading the problems. So this is the type of practice that you need to looking for the first 10 problems, is that don't just skip them, say, oh, I got it right, I move on. Okay, you want to looking for the solutions that to see if there's a quick way, an easy way to solve this kind of school math problem. Now let's look at another example. Okay, so here's another example. This is problem number 8, right? And again, the school math is, you do one by one, right? 100 minus 98, 2, 98, 2 plus 98, 98 minus 4, and you gradually try to find a pattern. And if you do that, again, this problem will probably take you about a couple of minutes. For problem solvers way is that they can look at this whole thing in totality. And quickly they can see that this is a grouping of 2, right? So we can see that each pair will give us a 2. So the question is, how many pairs do we have? Well, we notice that all we have are even numbers. So that means we have 50 even numbers. Well, 50 even number give you 25 pair of 2, and each number is 2. So all you do is a mental math. 25 times 2 gets you 50, and you got to answer immediately. Yeah. So that's the important thing, is that you want to starting to learn this kind of techniques and this kind of strategy. These are really important problem-solving strategies and number sense strategies to grouping numbers, to breaking numbers, and to solve the problem faster. So typically, for the first 10 problems, if you use the school math way of doing it, you typically will get it right, but you may still wasting a lot of time. Strategy number 7. A lot of students, especially for 6th grade and 7th grade, is they look at the geometry problems, they will skip, or they just let them guess. Geometry problem is not always scary, okay? And a lot of time is you can make some common sense, and you can learn it. So when you practice for geometry problems, don't just skip it. Say, oh, I have not learned the geometry, I don't want to study it. Look at the solutions. Now, some problems you may not be able to know because you don't know the geometry series. If you don't know how to do the similar triangles, if you don't know how to do the Pythagoreans, if you don't know how to look at the relationship between the circles, then those problems you skip, right? Okay, and or you take time to learn it. But sometimes you want to learn some simple strategy, like this problem. This problem is number 22, right? You need to get this problem right in order to be in the top 5%. And on the surface, this problem is very, very daunting. Right? But if you notice that is that this is 3 and this is 4, it's a rectangle. Well, just cut it off. Right? Draw some lines and look at the rectangles. Well, once you cut off, then you can see that this one actually is not bad, because now you can see that if you move this one, these 2 white pieces into here, well, that's 2 blocks. If you move this one to here, then that's 1. So these 2 connect together is 1. Well, this is also 2. All right? And then if you move these 2 on this side, what this problem give you is 4. So now you can count. You got 4, 2, 2, 1. So you got a total of 9. Well, your area is 1, 2, 3. 3 times 4, your area is 12. So 12 minus 9, you got 3. Right? So this is just simple, Lego. Right? This is just simple Lego. So the problem looks like very, very daunting, and so don't skip them. Study this kind of simple geometry, looking for simple strategies of cutting the figures, move the figures, recombine the figures, and so many of the geometries. You usually on the AMC you have 1 or 2 geometry problems that testing your advanced geometry skills. Majority of geometry school problems is about strategy. Okay? The knowledge is 6th grade math, but the strategy is something that you want to learn and you want to practice to learn. Now, for the more challenging problem, like a number, this is a number 24. This is the second hardest problem supposedly on the problem, but not necessary. And sometimes a problem looks like a challenge, and but it's testing you some of the fundamental skills. Like this problem, most of my 6th graders most of students in my 6th grade class who study the divisibility can easily handle that. So if you don't have a knowledge on that, then you should be able to very quickly study how to solve this problem and look at the divisibility. And you can see, and for example, we can see that QRS is divisible by 5, and many of students will know, if divisible by 5, then means this number must be 5. Right? And PQR is divisible by 4, and we know that for this number to be divisible by 4, all we need to check the last 2 digits. Well, the last 2 digits can be divisible by 4 using 1, 2, 3, 4. And we only have a couple choices, such as 12, 24, or 32. Right? So if you put the 5 to get together and 5 there together, so we essentially have 3 possible choices here. Now, the last number is divisible by 3. Well, divisible by 3, that means R plus S plus T must be a multiple of 3. So we can look at this, say, okay, well, this is 2, this is 5. So right now it's 7. To be a multiple of 3, I need a 2. Well, not possible, right? Because we already used the 2. And here's 4, and here's 5, that's 9. So I can have a 3 here. Well, that's good. If I have 3 and I got a 1. So now my answer is 1. And just double check to make sure that the next one is, this is 2. So the next one, 2, 5, and we need a 2 here. So that's the exact same as before. So this one not possible. So we got this one is easy. So that this one, again, this one looks like a number 24, looks very challenging. And sometimes students in 6th grade will say, oh, I'll never be able to solve a problem number 24. But not true. Okay? So read all the problems because some of the problems can be very, very easy in the more advanced levels. Okay. So this is not, okay. And then for the ones that you missed, if you don't know how to do this, you learn it. You learn the rules of divisibility by 3, by 4, by 5. Then write them down, put them in your notebook, and so that before the test you can review those strategies one more time so they can reflect. Strategy number 9. Now, 2 weeks before the test is critical, right? 2 weeks before the test is critical. So the 2 weeks before the test, and you want to do is go back to your sheet. Yeah. 2 weeks before test, you want to go back to your sheet. You want to find all the problems that you got wrong, the problems that got skipped, right? Because these are the problems that you didn't get right. right last time. And most of them is either they made a careless mistake, misread the problems, or you don't know how, the maths background behind it, and you learned it. And but if that was 4 or 5 weeks ago, there's very high chance that you may forgot it. So by going through these problems one more time that you missed, it helps you to confirm you actually mastered the material you must, and you did not over reading the problems again. So this also will be a very, very good review strategy, is just to go through the problems. The last 2 weeks, don't think about learning new skills. Focus on solidify the skills that you already learned, and maximize the knowledge you learned, because the more you're familiar with the underlying knowledge, and then the better off that you will be. Right? So finally, the test date, right? So the night before, have a good night's sleep, and two things is always important. Go to the test site early. So many times I have students come to test late, or only have 5 minutes and 10 minutes, and they just rush into the class and don't get anything ready. But if you go to the site 15, 20 minutes early, just in case you forgot something, you might be able to get them back, and you calm yourself down and put yourself in the test mode. The other thing is that a lot of students will always have the habit of bubbled answer to the last minute, and that they always bubbled answer to the last minute. So if you do that, then if you prefer to bubble answer at the last minute, then when the proctor says 3 minutes left, then you should start bubbling. Almost every year I have students who rush into the bubble and get answer correct, and then they bubbled answer wrong. So when you bubble it, double check. So the last thing you want to do is solve all the problems and then bubble wrong.